Welcome to Political Connections.
Well, regardless of your political affiliation, Hillary Clinton's email saga probably of interest. While some political parties are using it against her, there's one thing for certain: the story is much more complex. To go into detail and break it down for us, we have John Ubaldi from Ubaldi Reports. First of all, let's start out with your credentials. You've been with us on the show before.
Correct.
You've written a book about businesses and veterans. You've been in the Marines for 30 years, so you've had to use these kind of devices, etc.
Whether in the United States, at different military bases, and when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Okay, why do you think there's so much confusion about this issue? And again, folks, we're not going to get political about saying what's right and what's wrong. The courts have kind of decided that for us right now. We are going to look into this whole notion. So why is it so confusing?
I think people don't understand when they see emails getting sent or received. What people need to understand, there's three systems. There's their top secret, secret, and then unclassified. Unclassified is what everybody has at home.
When you say three separate systems, you're not just talking about a stamp that has a name on it. You're talking about the way those emails
Correct.
have to be handled. Oh, I didn't know that.
When it's electronically, they all have to be handled separately. So when I say three servers, each server, top secret, secret, and unclassified, each has its own separate email account. So you can't send an email from the top secret to the unclassified. They don't share the same electronic
Now you're
trail.
talking about the military servers, though. But Hillary Clinton didn't use those.
That's including intelligence. The same thing. The same thing applies. There's no difference between what the military uses and what the intelligence world or what Hillary Clinton had used herself.
Okay, so but how could they not be migrated? Why can't a top secret be sent to an unclassified?
Because they want to keep that particular information classified or top secret.
But I mean, can it physically happen, though?
The only way it can happen is somebody who would either looked at it on one system, download it, or carried a document that they printed out or copied from that system and move it over. But by doing that, you compromise that particular information, and that is not allowed.
Okay, you showed me a document here. Folks, you can't see it right now. It's a very complicated document, though. And I'll just read you one of the lines. It says, Classified Information Non-Disclosure Agreement, Part 2. I hereby acknowledge that I have received a security indoctrination concerning the nature and protection of classified information. Would Hillary Clinton have had to sign one of these?
Correct, you did.
And then it would say, I hereby agree that I will never divulge classified information to anyone unless I have officially verified the recipient has been properly authorized by the United States government to receive it or has been given prior written notice of authorization from the U.S. governments or Department of agencies. So again, she should have read that.
She would have had to have read it, and all her aides would have had to sign the same thing.
So when they brought this up, and the FBI did talk to her about this, they asked her if she had signed that, and the information that she gave, according to her own testimony, was a little vague, even saying something to the fact that, you know, I had a concussion recently and not sure.
Well, because the FBI notes that came out on Friday of last week said she didn't understand how the classified system sets up. She didn't understand the classified markings. But then when she gave a press conference on Monday, she said, I take this very importantly. I really understand what the classified marking is. So she kind of contradicted herself.
Okay. When you were working in the military, did they give you a device on which to receive those emails?
If you have a secret clearance or higher, everybody is given an email address. Mm-hmm. Everybody is given a computer where you can access information. But you can only access that classified information in a secure setting. So let's just say this studio is a secure setting. That's the only place you can access that. So when you come into a secure setting, you can't take in any type of electronic device. That includes BlackBerries, cell phones, any tablets, anything like that.
And the military provided for you those devices, those BlackBerries or those computers?
They would provide those for you, but you cannot send a classified email off a BlackBerry.
Okay, now, so they would have given Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, those devices, so she would have had those.
She never received one from the Secretary of State. She used her personal devices.
But should she have received one from the Secretary?
She should have received her own laptop or computer device. She would have received her own cell phone or BlackBerry from the State Department, government issued. She was never issued those. She used her own. And we found out on Friday that she had, instead of 2 devices, she had multiple devices, I think all the way up to 13 devices.
We're going to continue our conversation here with John Ubaldi, 30-year veteran of the Marine Corps, also involved in a lot of national security and intelligence issues, right after this. So stay with us. Good stuff still coming. Welcome back to Political Connections, continuing our conversation with John Ubaldi, a 30-year veteran of the Marine Corps, worked within the intelligence service as well. So let's talk about, so we know that there are 3 different servers. So let's talk about the classifications, because this has gotten all confusing.
Okay.
So there are 3 classifications,
Correct.
right?
Confidential, secret, and top secret.
Now, is it stamped on those documents? Because one thing Hillary Clinton said was there was nothing ever stamped on any of those documents that would have indicated to her that these were, in quotes, top secret.
That's true to a point. They have to be stamped with all those 3 classifications, but there's a lot of documents that won't say this. Just because it comes across your email or in your email account, doesn't mean it's going to say top secret or secret or confidential.
Well, because that's what she was using as saying, well, I did not knowingly send any of that stuff because none of it was marked that way.
Somebody at her level, and we're told this, whether it's marked or not, you have to recognize what is classified and what is not. There's certain things you can't say. You can't say anything about operations. You can't say anything that's going to give the enemy or our adversaries information on this.
Now, we also found out from the testimony before the FBI that some of her staff members had literally copied from top secret or reclassified documents, portions of that, to her email.
You can't do that. Now, when you're on the secret and top secret server, when you have that email, when you send an email out, it already defaults to say what classification do you want to make it. So you can't just like you're at home, you send an email out and it goes out. You send an email out, it'll stop it, and a default menu will come up saying, how do you want to classify this?
Now, could some of this stuff have been printed? Because then how could her staff members have copied exactly word for word some paragraphs and then sent those paragraphs to her on her email?
Now, you can print it, but you can only print it, if you're on a secret server, you can only print to a secret copy machine. You take that information and you transfer it over to the unclassified, you can't do that. You can only use it from secret to secret, top secret to top secret. So anybody that downloads it or moves it to the unclassified side is doing something wrong.
So maybe this is another question. So she's in the State Department for how many years?
She was there 4 years.
She was there for 4 years. How could they not know this?
That's the question that everybody wants.
Because you're military, and I know other military folks are asking the same question. Now, this is not the same thing as David Petraeus, because there was information that was divulged that was. And then this other thing said, well, some of this information was just recently reclassified as being top secret. I don't get that.
See, the interesting thing is, when I was in Afghanistan, my colonel, who's a full colonel, everything he did was on the classified system. The only thing he didn't do was just administrative thing, make sure you guys get training. Anybody at Hillary Clinton's level, everything she talks to, any diplomat, that's all classified. So it was strange to me to find that she spent all her time on the unclassified system that she had set up, a server and a private email account. No one's ever done that.
Now, just to be fair again, because the intent is a big deal, and the FBI basically said there was no criminal intent, and because there was no criminal intent, there was going to be no criminal prosecution. My question is, though, other people in the military, how did you guys and gals that are in the military then, when you looked at this and go, hey, wait a minute, I signed these documents, and I know people who've gotten in trouble for doing just exactly what she did, or something like it? And
that's the question. There doesn't have to be intent. Did you mishandle classified material? It doesn't have to show intent. Did you mishandle classified material?
And do people in the military then get punished for that?
Exactly, they do. They do get prosecuted. They get court-martialed for mishandling classified material, whether the intent's there or not.
Now, and again, let me just put on the other hat as well, because a lot on the Democrats are saying, you know, this issue is done and it's over. She made a mistake. It's time to move on. And not only that, if she did make a mistake, it wasn't intentional, and it should be left at that.
The problem is she would never be able to get a clearance because of how she mishandled classified material. If she becomes President of the United States...
Well, they'll give her a clearance if she's...
No, obviously that.
Yeah,
they will give her a clearance. But this is the problem. She mishandled classified material. Her aides mishandled classified materials. And the one thing that they found was that special access program.
That was another one.
Okay, but that's in the top secret realm. You can't just access it. That's another level of investigation you have to go through. And to get into that, you have to have a code. Did she, this I don't know, did she give that code to one of her aides who didn't have access. That's illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah, well, all of this has been very, very complicated. And John, thank you for coming by, because you've really straightened out a lot of stuff that I had no idea. And hopefully,
it's a complicated system.
Right, and it's in the political realm again.
Correct.
But as far as the courts are concerned, it's kind of done and over. Maybe not politically, but we'll have to see what happens with that. John, thank you. Great information.
Well,
Appreciate
thanks, Al. Thanks for having me on the show.